Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Well, let me call to order tonight's town board meeting. It's a regular meeting. It's June 18th, 2018. Time is 7 p.m. I'd like to welcome all those who are attending tonight. And would you please rise and, Catherine Atherton, Councilwoman Catherine Atherton, leads us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you. First item on the agenda is to go into the Queensbury Board of Health. We are going to have a public hearing, and so we need to go in the Board of Health to have that public hearing. Any motion to move into the Board of Health?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilman Medevere.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. All those in favor of moving into the Board of Health, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. We're now into the Board of Health. So, Rose, would you please read our first and only item to be dealt with in the Department of Health?
Sure. This is a public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of Higley Lake Property LLC.
All right, this is a property on 23J Road owned by Gary and Susan Higley. We're having a public hearing on it tonight. They're asking for, it's already an existing system. And it was discovered, I'm not sure how or what happened. Mr. Higley's here and might explain that to us. But they're asking for 2 variances. The existing dry well is 142.4 feet from the existing well instead of the required 150-foot setback. And the existing dry well is 147.6 feet from the neighboring well that was installed by the neighbors just April 13th of last year instead of the required 150-foot setback. Okay. Any questions from the town board? Mr. Higley is here. I'm sure he'd be pleased to come forward and respond to any questions you may have in regards to this.
Good evening, Gary Higley, 31 Chestnut Ridge Road, Queensbury, New York. We are doing an interior remodel. So because it's lakefront property, we needed a variance to get this to do the renovations. That's why I'm here tonight.
So you're doing some renovations and it was discovered that you have a pre-existing septic system. And it looks like it was installed, but they didn't measure exactly right.
Well, it was installed years ago. My parents have owned the property for 30 years, and when they passed away, Susan and I bought it from them.
Yeah.
So it's an existing system that's been updated through the years. It's a 1,000-gallon tank with a pump-up system to 2 dry wells at the top of the driveway. All the drainage pipes have been replaced. They're all new. New covers have been put on. It's an alarm system. So it's a good system. Our options on the application, it says, could we do this without a variance? Yes, we could. But we would be putting leach fields in that would be 100 feet from the well and much closer to the lake than the existing 150 feet dry wells that are, or 142 feet dry wells that are there. So we feel that the variance is actually a more logical way to go than putting in the leach fields.
Yeah, and I understand it's functioning fine.
Yes.
Any questions for Mr. Higley while he's up there?
I think the requests are minimal. You're talking about less than 8 feet and
All
3
right.
feet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Higley. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this sanitary sewage disposal variance request? Seeing no member of the public that wishes to speak to that, no more town board discussion on the matter. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right. I'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Motion made by Councilman Ferrand, seconded by Councilman Medevere. Roll call vote on this, please, Ralph.
Councilperson Atherton.
Yes.
Ferrand.
Yes.
Switzer. Yes. Stroud.
Yes.
And Medevere.
Yes.
All right. Case closed. All right. No other matters before the Board of Health that I'm aware of, so may I have a motion to move out of the Board of Health? Moved by Councilman Medevere.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. All those in favor of moving out of the Board of Health say aye.
Aye.
We're out of the Board of Health. All right, next we have a public hearing. So if you would,
This is a public hearing on the 2018 through 2020 Fire Protection Service Agreement between the Town of Queensbury and North Queensbury Volunteer Fire Company, Inc.
all right, well, this is an update on the contract, no different than we did for Central. It's just updating the contract to be in accord with state law. And John Hodgson found an error, and we corrected that, John, thank you. And they're proposing a 3-year budget that's approximately 1.5% a year growth for the next 3 years, 2018, 2019, and 2020. This will be retroactive for the year 2018. All right, there's a public hearing on this. Would any member of the public like to speak to the 2018-2020 Fire Protection Service Agreement between the Town of Queensbury and North Queensbury Volunteer Fire Company?
I'd just like to make a couple comments. John Hodgkins, Treasurer, North Queensbury. Yeah, the budget is 3 years. It's a flat budget, 344.5 each of the 3 years, which is about a 1.5% increase from the previous budget that came up. A little history here, and I'm just doing this for the public. Over the past 10 years, North Queensbury has only raised their budget by 5% total over a 10-year period, from 328 to 344.5. At the same time, fire budgets have gone up about 41%. So we've kept a fairly flat budget characteristics. We have at this time no debt, although we are taking a truck on here in the next few weeks. And all equipment's in great shape and ready to go. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Yeah, you do a nice job. Thank you, John.
Any questions?
Any questions for John while he's up? Seeing none. Any other member of the public wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead, Queensbury. My question is the same as before, and why is this retroactive, and why aren't we looking at things in the time that they're supposed to be looked at? And why aren't we looking at consolidation? Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I make a response to the question here?
Please.
Again, John Hodgkins. The question of consolidation has come up a couple times. And there's, we thought about, a few of us talked about this, and it was in EMS and also in fire. Number one, fire it's about location. I mean, you have to have equipment within a certain amount of location. Two, these are volunteer fire companies. When you go to consolidate, what's the purpose? I mean, you have zero salaries going out. If you reduce people and if you say, hey, we're not going to have something over here, then all that's going to happen is you have less volunteers because you volunteer by location. There's 3 or 4 school districts that's represented in the town of Queensbury, 60 square miles. We're in 4 different zip codes. So each one has their own little name to their community. I mean, there's South Queensbury, there's West Glens Falls, Queensbury Central, North Queensbury, Bay Ridge. We're all separate names and little separate communities. So when you look at something, when some bring up the word consolidation, it actually might cost you money. All of a sudden you put things together and somebody says, boy, instead of spending 5 hours a week doing something, I got to spend 20. Maybe I need a paycheck. That could cost money you could go up instead of down. Just a thought for everyone to think about. Thank you.
It's important to note too that as an insurance guy, you have to have a fire department every 5 miles to a dwelling or you cannot obtain insurance, period. I mean, yeah, you can, but to go to that channel or that route, it's extraordinarily expensive. So, the fact that we have these fire companies that are staggered and protect us within that 5-mile radius helps a homeowner with their insurance policies. And we're talking not just a little bit of money, we're talking a lot of money. If I had to be in a PC 10, which is over 5 miles to a fire department with no water source, there's only 2 or 3 companies that would even write you at 3 times what you would pay if you went to a regular carrier. So it's important to note that there's a lot more to this than just consolidating, throwing everybody in Bay Ridge because it's centrally located. It's not going to work. The other thing with John Salvador a couple weeks ago with the insurance, believe me, I was a proponent of putting the insurance under one umbrella. You cannot do that. These are their own companies. You cannot insure West Glens Falls under Bay Ridge's fire insurance. It does not work. They will not allow it. So we can't, believe me, I wanted to do this. We cannot do it. So, the system works. We're still paying less than the city of Glens Falls for our fire services, even though they're only 4 square miles and we're 78 square miles. So, we're not doing things wrong. Can we do it better? Perhaps, but, it would come at a price.
I agree. It will come. And each fire company has its unique needs. I mean, Central needs a tower truck. They've got bigger buildings. They've got to be able to put together. They have to be able to react to some different types of fires or happenings that we have. North Queensbury, we have a fire boat. 20 miles of shoreline we have to do. We do not have any hydrants. We have to transport our water from one location to the other. Other parts of the town have hydrants. Everybody has their unique needs to parts of the community, a unique piece of apparatus. And it's up to us to do our best at keeping our budget square and not wasting taxpayer dollars, because it all comes in. And the people of North Queensbury realize that the most, because right now we're picking up about 27% of the tab for the community. I mean, that's just the way the assessment works. And we keep our budget nice and low, so we hope everybody else does too. So.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yes.
I just want to add what you brought here tonight, giving a little bit more explanation, the number of years you've had service to the town. I think sometimes that's part of the problem, is that the public doesn't know enough about how fire protection is structured in the town of Queensbury, and hearing from somebody who has done it for so long and has had the background that you do is helpful. It makes people understand a little bit more about what it costs the town and why it costs the town the money that it does to protect our citizens. So thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
And if you compare our fire protection to other towns of equal magnitude in similar situations, we have a pretty good deal. One of the things too that I've noticed is what keeps the volunteers together is each group has its own social grouping. And so some of the guys join not only to help the community, and that's number one, but it also gives you some camaraderie and some socialization, and you make friends, and I think that's all part of it too, and that's why it stays volunteer.
And there's no question. That's why I had to bring up that you could lose volunteers that way. I mean, people up in our community go to Lake George schools. They don't go to Queensbury schools, so they know those people that are from there. So you're starting off at that level. And then down in other parts, they go to Glens Falls. And people don't realize that there are different communities within this community, and it's a fairly big area. I mean, it's a solid half an hour driving from one side of this town to the other side of this town. So it's not a simple process of saying, hey, we put it all together. And really, people work hard at trying to make savings within. I mean, there's rules in our contract that say we go out for bid. If you go into the individual rules, bylaws of the companies, they have rules intact there too, where they have to put things out for bid. Right now, the county actually is working on a process where they can do some group buying, and some of our members went to visit on that and see how they can reduce some of the cost by looking at items that might come up. So I think that's maybe a small area where some things will be reduced as cost, but generally by consolidating, I don't believe that's where your main savings are going to come from, and they're doing a pretty good job all in all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing too is we started this in 2017 with a legal team, and the Association of Towns gave us a heads up saying, listen, I'll bet that a lot of you and your contracts with your relative fire companies and your fire protection districts are not up to date in terms of state law and so forth. All right, so we started that process. It never got back. We changed legal teams, and you had 800 things to catch up on. This is one of them. And here we are with the 2 contracts that were due this year. Now, the contracts that are due next year will go a lot smoother because we nailed this process, and Bob Hafner has done a lot of research on this, and now the contracts are compliant with state law. Okay, but it took a while to get there. All right, anything else from the board? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Tom Ross, Queensbury. I just wanted to say a couple of things about it. First of all, is North Queensbury, I think, is the star fire company because they've got a fantastic treasurer, John Hopkins, who was a client of mine for many years. And I could never get a nickel past him, so I think that. One thing I do want to say, Tony, is I don't believe you have to consolidate the physical locations if you consolidate. In Glens Falls, for example, they have their fire department, but if you go out to Luzerne Road, there's another little 1-2 stall out there. They have others around town. I don't believe you have to consolidate the physical locations. But I think one of the things you might want to consider doing, because not all of your companies are as tightly managed and constructively managed as North Queensbury, is maybe you want to consider at some point hiring an independent, and I'm not talking about paying $25,000 or any of that stuff, but somebody who's independent to take a look at what possibly could be. You don't have to do all or nothing. I mean, maybe there's something in the middle where you can, I'm not familiar with the insurance laws, so I'm not going to touch that one. But I'm certain that in terms of products and other things, there could be some minor savings. But I know at the last meeting, one of the points that was made is that North Queensbury had the fewest calls of any of the companies. Well, that's because half the residents are gone for half the year, you know, on the lake. But for the years that my firm did the audit on when Dan Steck was in place and a couple of years of John's, I mean, except for one company, which got straightened out, we never found excess spending or anything like that in the companies. I mean, overall, they're well managed. My biggest concern would be if John thinks you could lose some volunteers. Right now, that's kind of a crisis situation, and people aren't volunteering anymore. I presume that's true from what I've read and everything. But it might pay to put I think one of the big disappointments I've always had with the town for years, not necessarily just Mr. Stroud, is that when issues like this come up or others, you never seem to want to go out and see if there's some expertise that isn't going to charge you a lot of money and do it. For example, I'm a retired CPA. I can look at a set of financial statements and I can tell certain things. Jennifer might disagree. She knows I'm a tax guy. But, you know, it forms some committees, advisory committees, that when budget time comes and you want to take a look at things, you know, there's a bunch of CPAs and financial advisors around the community that can give you some real expertise. Not that you don't have it, because you're all pretty experienced, but you ought to give some thought to that. There's a lot out there. For example, at the moment, for what reason I'm not going to say, I'm reviewing the Warren County financial statements. And I see things that I say, why? I don't understand this. Doesn't mean there's any misleading or anything, but they just aren't right. I mean, there's things in there. But I think with regard to the fire company, I don't want to take up your time. With regard to the fire companies, I think, again, with North Queensbury in particular, that's a solid organization that is run financially. I mean, to only have the increases they've had over 10 years and what they're projecting for the next 3, that's probably unbelievable. Should be used as a model. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this? Seeing none, board members, any other thoughts? Okay. A motion for resolution approving the 2018 to 2020 Fire Protection Service Agreement between the Town of Queensbury and North Queensbury Volunteer Fire Company.
Close public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
I'll introduce.
Introduced by Councilman Medevere.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. Roll call vote, please.
Sure. Councilperson Switzer.
Yes.
Stroud.
Yes.
Medevere.
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
And Ferrand.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, North Queensbury and John. Okay. Next is, we have 17 resolutions before us tonight. I'll go through and briefly describe each one, and then any member of the public wishes to speak to any of the resolutions before us tonight, you're welcome to do so. Now, if there is another town topic that you wish to discuss with the town that's not related to any of the resolutions, I'll give you the opportunity to speak to us, but that will occur later in the meeting, okay? This part of the meeting pertains to only the resolutions. So resolution 4.1, Rose?
Resolution acknowledging and accepting required audit of financial statements of Queensbury Town Court for year ended December 31st, 2017.
Okay. We had BST audit the town court. So it's an independent accounts report. And they looked at bank reconciliations, and they did not reveal any findings. If they reveal findings, that's not good. If I say did not reveal any findings, that's good. Monthly reports to the Office of State Comptroller did not reveal any findings. Records of bail did not find any findings. Cash receipt procedures did not reveal any findings. Cash disbursement procedures did not reveal any findings. Determination of monthly accountability did not reveal any findings. Remittances to the town supervisor did not reveal any findings. Comparison of dockets to monthly reports did not reveal any findings. So, I give the court credit. They got their ducks in a row, their I's dotted, their T's crossed. They're doing a good job. Resolution 4.2.
Resolution authorizing hiring of Jacob Hall as temporary seasonal laborer to work at town cemeteries.
All right, that says it. 4.3.
Resolution authorizing hiring of seasonal employees to work for Department of Parks and Recreation.
All right. So because these have familial relationships, they have to be reviewed and approved by the board. Caitlin Harrington is daughter of Water Superintendent, Wastewater Director Chris Harrington. Nicholas Izzo is stepson, and Gretchen Levering is the wife of Park and Rec Director Steve Levering. John Mellon is the son of Deputy Town Clerk 1, Rose Mellon. And again, these are Park and Rec workers, they're seasonal, and those are the familial relationships. Resolution 4.4.
Resolution authorizing Ragnar Events LLC to conduct Ragnar Relay Adirondacks 200-mile overnight running relay race partially within the town of Queensbury.
All right, Catherine, here's one for us. Ragnar Relay, 200 miles. Now, because part of it goes through Queensbury and uses the Warren County Bike Trail, Birdsall Road, Ash Drive, Glen Lake Road, we have to get the approval of the town board, the approval of the highway department, and they have to show that they have the appropriate insurance, and they've done all that. The only approval that they haven't gotten is from this town board to go ahead with that, and that's tonight. Maybe. 4.5.
Resolution authorizing local tourism promotion and convention development agreements between the town of Queensbury and certain organizations.
Okay. So this is Adirondack Theater Festival, $4,500. Chapman, $9,000. Beaver Canal Alliance, $4,000. Glenswell Symphony, $5,500. Golden Bull Sports Park, $25,000. Great Escape, $15,000. High Collection, $9,000. Lake George Chamber of Commerce, $10,000. New York Spider Riders, $2,500. Sister Cities Committees, $1,800. Warren County Historical Society, $2,000. And that should be West Mountain School, not West Mountain Ski Center, $8,000. All right, note that change. World Awareness Children's Museum, $2,425. So a total of $99,725. Okay, resolution 4.6.
Resolution setting public hearing on 2018 through 2020 Fire Protection Services Agreement between the town of Queensbury and Queensbury Central Volunteer Fire Company, Inc.
All right, their budget's very similar, about 1.5% increase for the next 3 years. Their contract has been updated and is compliant with New York State. Finally got there. And we're setting the public hearing on this for July 2nd. 4.7.
Resolution authorizing seeking of bids through New York State Office of General Services Procurement Program for a plug-in hybrid all-wheel drive sport utility vehicle for Building and Codes Department.
All right, well, I asked the various departments, would they consider an EV such as, Nissan Leaf or a Chevy Bolt? They said, no, it really doesn't serve our needs. We need an SUV type vehicle, all-wheel drive vehicle. And so I discovered that there are plug-in hybrids that do exist. All right, so how much are they? How much would they cost the town? We don't know. So this is to put out the bid. Let's see how much these plug-in hybrid SUV all-wheel drive vehicles are going for. And it will help us make up our minds of where we want to spend our money and grant money and so forth. We need to have those facts in a row. All right. And so this is not obligating us to buy anything. It's only allowing it to go out to bid so we can find out what these things are going for in prices. 4.8.
Resolution authorizing renewal of Town of Queensbury's workers' compensation policies with Public Employers Risk Management Association, Inc. for July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020.
All right. Well, this is awarding it to PERMA. We had PERMA last year, and it was $677,000.76. because of our safety rating going down, as PERMA estimated, 1.09. We're talking this year of $441,096, a savings of $235,980. Comp Alliance did bid, and they were a little bit cheaper in the original bid, but they didn't offer everything that PERMA did. For example, PERMA is going to give the town $30,000 a year, up to $30,000 a year, to improve further their worker safety program. So when you compare that to Comp Alliance, PERMA was actually better. And like I said, on the surface, we're saving $236,000, plus we're getting money to improve worker safety as the years go by. Resolution 4.9.
Resolution authorizing emergency tree removal services at Pineview Cemetery.
All right. Pineview Cemetery has some trees that have to be taken down. They're jeopardizing public safety, and that's $2,000. They did go out to bid, and that was the winning bid. Resolution 410.
Resolution authorizing town wastewater director to enter into out-of-district agreement between Town of Queensbury and Faden Enterprises, Inc.
Nobody knows why, but the Queensbury Consolidated Sewer District, when made, did not include a couple of properties that were near the intersection of the southern terminus of Monterey Road and Route 9. No one knows why they weren't included. Now, Mr. Fatt, very enterprising individual, doing a lot of things, making a lot of things happen. He wants to do something with that corner. The southern terminus of Monterey Road and Route 9, and it would be the northeast corner. They're not into the sewer district, so what we're going to do is we're going to give them an out-of-district agreement, and it's for tax map parcel 296.17-1-149. That's the one on the corner. And it's a 1-year agreement. You will have to pay the same rate. You will have to pay buy-in charges that pays to the city of Glens Falls and the town's own buy-in charge. All operation and maintenance charges. So that will include about $1,850 in soft costs and $5,808 buy-in to charge to be paid upon execution of this agreement. And it's a 1-year agreement because we're going to insist that the owner does a map plan and report and then applies for a district extension, which is something we'd rather have. Resolution 411.
Resolution authorizing engagement of Stored Technology Solutions, Inc. for provision of Microsoft Azure Information Protection Plan, encryption services, managed services, IT risk assessment, and email archiving services.
All right, so the town of Queensbury is way ahead of the game in so many respects compared to other towns. We have been working on a computer infrastructure replacement and going to the cloud. Azure is part of that agreement. We've secured the engagement of Stored Technology Solutions, or Stored Tech, for professional services related to that project. And then we had the Office of the State Comptroller do an audit, an information technology audit. And even though at the time they did the audit, they knew that we're going to be moving away from that world into one that is much more advanced, they still said that there are some things that we should do. So we should have a protection plan for encryption services in order to protect personal identifiable information. We should provide for a risk assessment and security training to provide staff training and make sure we're compatible with state and industry recommendations, and provide off-site disaster recovery services. And we should email archive within Office 365 in order to comply with the New York State Archives record retention requirements. So Stored Tech has submitted 3 quotes for such work in monthly amounts of $2 per account for Microsoft Azure Information Protection Plan for encryption services, $289.99 for managed services providing for risk assessment, security training, and $3 for email archiving. Okay, Resolution 412.
Resolution authorizing license agreement for temporary use of Gurney Lane Recreation Area.
All right, it's for the Under the Woods Foundation, and two great individuals, Heidi and Bob Underwood, are responsible for this wonderful organization. Their mission statement is to provide experiences that are unique, creative, and adventurous for children that are differently abled, including but not limited to autism, the whole autism spectrum disorder, and other developmental disabilities, and their families. Under the Woods Foundation implements outdoor summer camps for children, which incorporates creative activities, nature themes, family participation, and other related activities. Camp Under the Woods and Camp Summer Social are programs that have been created through the foundation. So they would like to host an annual mountain bike race at our famous Gurney mountain bike trails, and run the Gurney mountain bike race, I should say. And the foundation and Common Roots Brewing Company have agreed. The Common Roots will provide the beer and oversee its sale to the public. And so this is a resolution where the town board has determined that the proposed activities are in furtherance of a proper town purpose and the goals of the town's Department of Parks and Recreation. So this is to enter into a license agreement setting forth the rights and responsibility of each connection with the race and the sale of beer at the park. Resolution 413.
It's a resolution authorizing extension renewal of agreement between the town of Queensbury and Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District regarding MS4 stormwater management services through June 30th, 2019.
Right, the town of Queensbury is a regulated municipality under New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Program. And the regulations help protect and improve the quality of water bodies in Queensbury and other densely populated parts of the state, specifically focusing on stormwater runoff. Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District does our management of this program for us, and they have in the past, and this is to continue that service with no changes in the program at this time, and the program will remain the same at $12,000, which we pay Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District to do our MS4 program for us. Resolution 414.
It's a resolution to amend 2018 budget.
All right, just shifting of money where it wasn't needed to where it is. 415.
Resolution authorizing Marshall and Sterling Upstate, Inc. to renew Town of Queensbury insurance coverage with Trident, Argonaut, and cyber insurance coverage with Ascent Lloyds, and pollution liability coverage with Chubb effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Okay, our broker Marshall and Sterling found our best deals. Last year we paid a premium of $183,539.31. This year it's $186,480.44. Just a little under $3,000 difference. Providing more liability and property insurance and cyber coverage. Resolution 416.
Resolution approving audit of bills warrant of June 19, 2018.
All right, so this is a warrant with a run date of June 14, 2018 and a payment date of June 19, 2018 totaling $766,298.13. And last but not least, Resolution 417.
Resolution appointing David Duell as Town Highway Superintendent.
All right, Tom Banner, he's retiring. And he gave us notice, June 29th, And we would like to make this seamless. And so David Doole, who's done a very good job as Deputy Highway Superintendent, we would like him to be the next superintendent. Following Superintendent Tom Van Ness, I know those are hard shoes to follow. Superintendent Van Ness did an excellent job as supervising and maintaining our highways, our culverts, stormwater flows, and 800 other things that Dave is now going to take over. So we appreciate Dave stepping up to the plate and making this seamless transaction. And Dave will pick his own deputy, and he'll notify us of that. And on July 2nd, we'll have a swearing-in ceremony for Dave if the board approves this tonight. Okay, so those are the 17 resolutions before us tonight. Any member of the public wish to speak to any of those resolutions before us tonight? Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead. You don't go out to bid unless you're thinking actually of buying something. You don't actually buy something until you've actually determined there's a need, that it's something useful, etc. Otherwise, you're abusing this entire system. You're asking people to do work. You're asking people to bid, and you don't really have any reason to go ahead and purchase at that time, and that's insulting to all of those people. It's also, I think, insulting to the Clean Energy Committee, who has been meeting regularly and discussing things like this, to not even consult them about such things. And I know there are a lot of people there that are interested in the environment and in saving money, and we've been talking to NYSERDA about certain proposals to spend the $50,000. I don't know whether this is going to come out of the $50,000 or not, but it doesn't matter. Money is money, and if it's a good purchase, it's a good purchase. If it's a bad purchase, it's a bad purchase. You are going to find that it's a lot easier to find out what these things will cost than to go through this process. And I can tell you that any vehicle is going to cost about, any plug-in is going to cost you at least $10,000 or $15,000 more than the exact same thing in a gas-powered unit. And you are going to somehow have to try to make up that difference. I know at least under NYSERDA, they require that this thing pays back for itself. That's one of the things they look at when they score these things, and they haven't scored any of this stuff. I don't know why it's taking so long, but we haven't gotten that back yet. But the one way this is going to work out is people buy these things because they have long commutes, etc. They put on 20, 25,000 miles a year sometimes when they have crazy distances to commute. You are looking at replacing a car that puts out less than 6,000 miles a year. It is a terrible, terrible choice. And it's not going to help the environment one little bit if it's sitting there and not putting miles on it. So it's a silly choice. It is an insulting choice. And I suggest that you withdraw this and put it back up at an appropriate time once you know more about what you might want. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to any of the resolutions?
John?
Yes. Seeing none, town board discussion.
Resolution 4.1, some of the wording, I'd like to have it be a little bit more accurate reflection of what it is that we actually are agreeing to. This really isn't an audit of the financial statements. If you look on the first page of the report, what we're approving tonight is an independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures. So it's not really an audit of the financial statements. There were audit procedures, I'm sure, that were applied to some of these, but I don't want the resolution to reflect the fact that it looks like we're approving an audit of financial statements for the town court, because that's not what we're approving.
Well, you would know best.
I would hope that maybe somebody else would as well. So there's a couple of, so if we can change just right off the bat the title, audit of financial statements, to independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures.
Okay.
And then the very first sentence, the Queensbury Town Board engaged the auditing, just strike auditing and put services of BST and Company. The third whereas, again, replace audit of the financial statements with the original independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures. And in that same paragraph, at the very end, it says the audit as having fulfilled the town board's responsibility.
Yeah.
Instead of the word audit, report. And then in the first resolve, again, the audit of the financial statements replaced with independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures.
Instead of that audit?
Instead of the audit, yes.
And you wanted what, Jennifer?
So it would be independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures.
Bob, did you get those?
I was hoping the town clerk got them. I caught most of them.
I didn't get all of the last one, but
Basically, you're replacing this anywhere where it says audit of the financial statements.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Caught those. Did it change anything in the second whereas? Okay. Change. Okay.
all right. Would you go through those one more time to make sure we get them all right?
I get, yeah, sure. So the resolution should be resolution acknowledging and accepting the independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures of Queensbury Town Court for year ended December 31, 2017. The first whereas, remove auditing right before services. And so it should just read, the Queensbury Town Board engaged the services of BST. The third whereas, again, replace audit of the financial statements with the independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures. And then
and change the word audit in that paragraph to report.
To report, correct. And then in the first resolved, the audit of the financial statements should be replaced with independent accountant's report on applying agreed upon procedures.
And are we going to change audit in the last resolve?
Yes, in the last
report.
Yep, in the last resolve, provide a copy of such report and a certified copy of this resolution.
Okay, is every town board member okay with those proposed changes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And town council? All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yep. Sorry, I was more interested in what the report had to say than we were doing
Well,
things
it was
okay.
a good report.
It was a good report, but we didn't actually, we're not accepting an audit of financial statements.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns on behalf of the board for any of the resolutions before us tonight?
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about 4.7 because I don't understand why it didn't go to the CEC first. It is part of the whole energy equation, and yet CEC was not consulted, or even it wasn't even mentioned to the CEC at all.
We talked many times with the CEC about buying a new EV.
Well, yes, we have, but we didn't talk about this particular car, the hybrid SUV.
So as I explained in my email, I talked to department managers. No one wanted a regular EV like a Volt or a Nissan Leaf. Nobody. Because their needs were different. So I asked them what their needs were. And they said, well, we need to have four-wheel drive. The winter driving and the sites that we go on and everything else and so forth. So the only thing, and I did a little homework, and the only thing I could find out was that they do exist, and more coming in 2020, but not right now. They do exist some all-wheel drive, pluggable hybrids that I asked Dave Patton, I said, well, because he wants to replace an old truck. And I said, would you do this? He said, yeah, I do that, but he wouldn't do the others. All right. How much are we talking?
I don't know.
I don't either.
But I think you can look out there and find out that
Well,
here's
we
the
can,
price and
you
then
know,
deduct
in
5,000
15
bucks or
minutes, we
something.
can advertise the bid.
It just seems like.
It just gives you the price.
I understand
I'm
what the
having a
resolution is
problem with
doing.
just having more information is a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing, but
It's
we
a
also
good
have,
thing.
it's a good thing, but we also don't have the information from NYSERDA and from the CEC either.
Good, let's just
So,
get our ducks in a row
okay,
and get some information.
so you put out for bid just for information,
I
not
want to
for a
know how much of
serious-
these things.
Not for a serious
All right,
bid.
so if I go and say, okay, well, Dave wants a all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive SUV type of vehicle.
I don't think it's what he wanted. I think he was asked, would you like a
He would
hybrid?
take it, but what?
And
I
have
just
agreed
want to
with
know
Catherine
how
as
much
well.
I could pick one up for. I need to know that. And I think the CEC needs to know that.
Well, you know it's gonna be a lot more than just gas, right?
Well, for example, if the CEC, as an advisory board, says to this town board that, you know what? If you spend $30,000, let's say, I don't know how much it is, but that's what I want to find out, on a plug-in hybrid SUV, all-wheel drive, and that $30,000 is going to give us an environmentally friendly and carbon footprint friendly vehicle. And that grant money will pay for it.
There you go, John. Why did you say that?
Because that's a possibility.
It is a possibility, but it's not it
That's
shouldn't be.
all I said was it's a possibility.
It's-
I'm having trouble with what is wrong with it existing as a possibility.
It's a possibility. I
Right.
agree, it's a possibility.
And so-
But we may not go there.
Yeah, but you know what? The first question is, how much are they? I don't know. Listen, the bid doesn't cost us anything really. It's not a great amount of time. We do it all over the time. This way we'll have some prices to it.
Yeah, but
Okay.
is there an urgency? Does Dave need his car right this second?
No, but why don't we go out and see what they're going for?
We can look online and find out what they're
No,
going
you
for.
can't.
Yeah.
You have to go through this.
I know you have to go through this,
Yeah.
but you can get an idea.
Well, that's all it is.
It's not rocket
It's
science.
not a big deal.
Except it's unnecessary work. That's
What?
all I, it could be
You
a
want to talk
possibly
about unnecessary work, I'll give you a long list. This is not one of the ones that anyone is complaining about.
And just, I mean, I had agreed with Catherine too, but more from a global, whole town perspective of, do we know, what's the town fleet look like? How many vehicles need to be replaced? What type of vehicles will need to be replaced? And is that something that we can look at in a more aggregate scope? And then it even goes to Kathy Bozzoni's email about there may be some
DEC aggregate.
Right. So I don't, it's one of those, yes, we do need to have an idea, but I think it kind of goes to the bigger, what's the bigger picture before we start just.
Well, I give some information. Number one, we'll be getting feedback from various entities in New York State about what vehicles are available, things we don't know, and we'll get information for what price they are. So that gives us some kind of a foothold. We can do our homework from there. But right now, we don't have any.
So I guess I'm coming from the standpoint of rather than just asking for this one type of vehicle, maybe there.
It isn't asking for one type of vehicle. It's asking for any vehicle that's a plug-in hybrid, SUV, all-wheel drive. I don't even know fully what's out there. I know some are coming in 2020, but there's some that exist out there now.
So to beat this to death, there was a point made earlier by Mr. Whitehead, which stuck in my head, which was why a hybrid all-wheel drive vehicle in this particular application, replacing a car that only had 60,000 miles in just 10 years. Should we just look for a traditional vehicle in this particular instance? And then when other opportunities come up, maybe where vehicles are on the road more.
Yes, certainly, I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
All right, but when you're doing your cost comparisons, What's the cost of this?
So you want to see how close this
I
vehicle
just,
is to a
yes,
traditional
I
vehicle?
just want, yes, not a.
So if you wanted to do this right, wouldn't you ask for cost between a hybrid and a conventional vehicle of the same?
Well, I can also go buy the conventional vehicles where we bought the last year that are an SUV all-wheel drive, like the Ford Escort that we've got, and so forth. I got an idea there. These, I have no idea.
Well, I think there's more that you have to evaluate as well. What about cost of operation? I mean, traditional versus, the hybrid plug-in. I mean,
I know, but if you don't know what the price of the plug-in is to start your base, I mean, if in 3 weeks we'll have a better idea of the price of what these vehicles are going for, and we'll have a better idea of what they're going for. And accounting doesn't mind doing this for us. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions, concerns, comments on any of the other resolutions? All right, are there any of the resolutions that you would like to have pulled for a roll call vote? Okay, anyone want to put forward resolutions 4.1 through 417 for approval? Introduced by Councilman Meadowbeer, seconded by.
I think we should pull 4.7.
So do
I would like to pull 4.7, sorry.
yeah. Let's pull it.
I don't see why. We're going to see why. All right, we'll pull 4.7. All right, Tony, would you amend your approval of 4.1 through 4.17 minus, we'll never get to know, 4.7?
Yeah.
All right, second?
Second.
Councilwoman Switzer seconds it. A roll call vote on those resolutions I just identified.
Councilperson Stroud,
Yes.
Meadowbeer,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Barone,
Yes.
and Switzer.
Yes.
Correspondence?
Yes. I have correspondence from Travis Whitehead dated June 4th, 2018, and it will be on file in the town clerk's office.
Okay. Privilege of the floor. Any town topic?
I thought it was pulled for a separate vote.
Do we?
I thought that 4.7 was just pulled for a separate vote. Was that not the
No,
intent?
just poll.
That was not my understanding.
Well, 3 members wanted to pull. For a roll call vote or just?
No, hold.
Oh, that's all, so I understand. I can't understand why you. First thing CDC would say, okay, how much? All right, Chevy Bolt, I mean. Okay, yes, sir.
I would like to remind you that when this was brought up last week, you mentioned that it was a hard time finding them. Today you said they do exist, but you mentioned a Kia and a Mitsubishi, and I don't know how you can ever look at any article and not see a price there. But somehow you almost convinced 4 people, which was pretty scary. But I do appreciate that in the end, anybody wants to know that price, look it up on the internet, and let's not bother OGS or anybody else, and let the CEC do their job. And I do appreciate that will be done, and I'm sure we'll come up with some good suggestions that will both benefit the environment and the bottom line. So thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to the town board? Yes, sir.
bother you again. I just want to get something clear on Jennifer's changes to the resolution. So that financial statement is not the financial statement of the town of Queensbury?
No, it was an
Okay.
agreed upon procedure.
That's what I thought. I thought it was too soon.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That's
why I
number
wanted
one.
clarification.
That's number one. And number two, and I may say this wrong, please don't take it that way, and it's not a criticism. But one thing I learned in my career is most people don't understand audited financial statements. I think Jennifer would agree. I don't know. But it would be good to make sure with 3 new board members that you understand what audited financial statements are. And I'm not going to give you a lesson or anything, but the one thing I would want to say is audited financial statements are to express an opinion that the amounts presented are correct. They aren't. They don't say there's no fraud. They don't say you've done anything wrong. That's expressed typically in a management letter that accompanies the financial statements. I don't know, do we get one, Jennifer? In the town?
The town does, yeah.
Yeah. But I think it would be important with budget season coming, with the audit coming, that your auditors, somebody from your auditors or somebody else, make sure that everybody understands what those statements are. For example, just to give you one example, the balance sheet. Balance sheet in a financial statement is good for one day, December 31st. It's not good for June 15th. It's not good for March 15th. It's not good for January 1st. It's only good for that one day, and it says this is the state of your assets and liabilities. Secondly, the income statement is for the whole year. It reflects what took place during the year, recording receipts, disbursements, and other things. So it might be well to, I don't know if the auditors make a presentation or not, to make sure that everybody understands when you look at the balance sheet, you can't rely on that December 31st balance sheet except for December 31st. And that's an important concept in accounting. And the only reason I came up is there's 3 new board members. I don't, other than George and Jennifer, I don't know backgrounds in that. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. So here we are on June 18th. That balance sheet that you're getting reported on is 6 months old, and the numbers are 6 months old, and they are useless in terms of making a decision today or tomorrow or for the next 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board? All right, seeing none. Ford F-150. You go down and see the sticker price. It's scary, isn't it, Dave? But if we bought one through bid, you and I can't buy it through bid, but the town can. Is there a substantial reduction in what we can buy one for versus what the town can buy one for versus what anybody else can buy it for? Yes, huge. But we'll never know.
Oh, no.
Never. I'm just pulling my head out. I can't get it. All right. Town board discussions. Let's start with Tony.
Not much, except congratulations to Dave. Great pick.
Thank you.
Look forward to continuing to work with you, and hopefully the transition will go well. I'm sure it will. So, good for you.
Thank you. All of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. But, you know, you and Tom have been very good to work with. And we, you know, working together, we accomplish a lot. And there have been other moments in time in other boards that, in other towns, that don't have the good relationship that we do. And I think it's productive for the town. It's productive for the community. So, thank you.
I've said enough tonight, I think. Other than congratulations, Dave.
short and sweet tonight. I did get an opportunity to represent the town at an Eagle Scout ceremony a couple of weeks ago with Patrick D. That was very nice ceremony. Sorry you missed it, but I was happy to step in.
Well, thank you for doing it.
Do that. No, it was very good. And as I was telling you earlier, today we had Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce Golf Tournament, and I know we support that organization. They're a good group, and it was hot, but enjoyable.
Yeah. Good cause. That it, George?
That's it.
Okay. Jennifer?
Just two quick items. Congratulations to the Queensbury boys baseball team who won the state championship. It was well deserved. And to Jay Mara, their coach. And then another item, it kind of plays off of what George was talking about the heat today, is we often at winter are always worried about our elderly neighbors, about the cold. The same thing applies to the heat. So I would just ask everyone to try to be a good neighbor to those elderly neighbors around them and keep an extra eye on them as we get into the hot season here. That's it.
On the topic of the New York State Boys Championship and Queensbury's winning that in baseball, usually we make a plaque up, as we did for Lake George and their, New York State Public High School Association Championship. And we'll have it made up too with the boys baseball and winning their state championship. And usually, like Tony did, we ask the coaches and the team to show up and we make a presentation. But given the time of year it is, and by the time that plaque gets made, and George, sometimes made at the last minute, isn't it? Yeah. I'm saying that because George had that Boy Scout ceremony on Sunday, and we didn't get the plaque until 9 o'clock a.m. Saturday, and George had to come pick it up here. But we'll go through the motions, and we'll try and get as many of them here as we can on Monday night. We'll give the presentation,
I'm sure Coach Merrick can
rustle
rustle up some.
Yep.
Is Coach Gayette still with them too?
Yes, he is. He's still the assistant.
Yeah, we need to get involved. They've been a team. And you know what? 5 years they've gone to that New York State Championship. And 4 times previous to this, I would go to Binghamton every time to go down and watch them play. And this year I couldn't make it.
I think they're trying to tell you something.
I think so. All right, so I got a few things. Shock and surprise, right? First of all, today's the 18th. But yesterday was June 17th. So does anybody know whose anniversary, whose death occurred 243 years ago? June 17th, 1775. I'll give you a hint. We named our county after him.
Joseph Warren.
Joseph Warren. I want to tell you a few things because, we didn't name our county after him lightly. He was a Boston physician. He began to join the colonist cause in 1767 with the passage of the Townshend Acts. He was appointed to the Boston Committee of Correspondence. He was the Grand Master of St. Andrew's Lodge of Freemasons. He delivered orations in commemoration of the Boston Massacre. Very daring. He drafted the Suffolk Resolves. They were endorsed by the Continental Congress. He served as president of the Revolutionary Massachusetts Provincial Congress. When the Intolerable Acts were passed in 1774, he declared that no obedience is due to the Intolerable Acts. And he authored the song, Free America. He enlisted Paul Revere and Bill Dawes on April 18, 1775 to leave Boston and spread alarm that the British garrison was setting out to raid Concord and arrest John Hancock and Sam Adams. And Joseph Warren said, "These fellows say we won't fight. By heaven, I hope we shall die up to my knees in blood." He participated in the April 19th, 1775 battles of Lexington and Concord. On June 15, 1775, the Continental Congress appointed George Washington the commanding general of the Continental Army and was bound for Boston. He was commissioned a major general in the colony's militia shortly before June 17, 1775. I mention this because they wanted a few soldiers to remain behind and fight the British while the farmer soldiers could escape and fight another day. Now, whoever volunteered to stay behind, you were signing your death warrant. If you agreed to stay behind, you just realized you agreed to live only a few more hours. He decided that General Israel Putnam, Colonel William Prescott, was enough leadership, and he was staying behind as a private soldier. He fought in the redoubt. They ran out of ammunition. The British assaulted the hill, Breach Hill, for a third time, and he was killed that day, June 17, 1775. Some refer to him as the hero of Bunker Hill. And many have said, historians say he is instrumental in the formation of our nation as Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, Sam Adams, and John Adams, and that's why we named our county after him. So I thought that was worth sharing. There was an article in the Chronicle talking to Mr. Gross and why he's buying land in Cary Industrial Park. And he says that land is gold. And if the sewer is extended further into Cary Industrial Park, the potential is much greater. Without sewer, you're limited in what you can do. Thought that was an interesting note. Again, we have Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District run our MS4 program for us. And, we help them do it. And there's a lot of work and responsibility in doing it, but, Warren County Soil and Water does a lot of great things for our general area. In Warrensburg, Glens Falls, they're talking about what they're doing in Warrensburg, installing 4 dry wells, catch basins, stormwater chambers to reduce and treat stormwater runoff in the town. And it goes on and on and on. A thing about what they do, stormwater projects mostly, but they put in a bioretention structure adjacent to, in Adirondack, adjacent to Church Street. Woodchuck Hill, they put in a 200-foot vegetated swale. And it goes on and on, all the infrastructure improvements, stormwater improvements mostly, for our area. They do a great job, Warren County Soil and Water, and they did with this, and I wanted to share that with you. And thank you, Patrick D. I have this here. Now, very quickly and lastly, my report to the Town Board and Community. On Tuesday, June 5th, after our last Town Board meeting, I was asked to do a ribbon cutting at Fast Track over near Exit 18. We changed the zoning, and I think we helped make a lot of things happen in that Exit 18 corridor. Putting sewer in is going to help make a lot more happen. But the Fast Track, holy mackerel, they got everything in it. There's a little restaurant, like a grocery store. It's a little bit of everything there. It's pretty interesting. If you haven't visited it, you need to visit it. Then I did a site visit at West Mountain Road Water Tower with Sean Doty, the engineer from Jason, Water Superintendent Chris Harrington, George was with us, Ron Ball, Gary Trombley, and we reviewed, what we could do there. And Sean Doty is going to get back with us with his thoughts. He's the engineer. June 6th, Wednesday, did a site visit at Pineview Cemetery. Dave was there, Tommy Bass was there, Jim Liebram was there from Warren County Soil and Water. Um, County was there. Kevin Hajos was there. And two things. One is the culvert's failing under both roads, right, Dave? Going into Pine View Cemetery. And at least in the more eastern entrance to Pine View Cemetery, it needs to be widened a little bit, which we can accommodate. The current culvert is failing, so we need to replace those culverts and repave that area when we get around to it. So I guess the county volunteered to help engineer that. So we'll see. I also met with Lake Sunnyside's Bob Hunt and talked about some Lake Sunnyside issues and moving forward. On Sunday, June 10th, I want to thank George Ferone. I was out of town in northern New Hampshire, up in the White Mountains at the time, and I want to thank him for representing the town at that Patrick D. Eagle Scout awarding event. Monday, June 11th, I met with Hank Chapman of Haler, Fryer and Kuhn to discuss the workman comp proposals and which ones were best and why, and I shared that with you. And then that night, Monday night, June 11th, we had a town board workshop. Dave Patton said we need another person in building and codes, another reason why we needed an updated vehicle. The property transfer law we talked about. Presentation was given by Executive Director of the Lake George Chamber of Commerce and CVB, Gina Metzner. Jamie Brown came in and talked to us about the French Mountain Park and would the town be willing to invest in that because part of that park is going to be in the town of Queensbury. And we said yes, we're willing to make an investment if Jamie can get the grant money and so forth. And then as far as developing an infrastructure, let's talk about that separately. Then we talked about the written information security policy, which legal counsel is reviewing. And it's an IT policy. And then we talked about the waterfront residential zone, what we currently have, what we could do, what we would like to do, what we misunderstood about what we could do and can't do. So we had that conversation. Then on June 12th, Tuesday, had a Tri-County United Way annual recognition breakfast, which was great. That's a great organization. And then I met with Mike O'Connor to discuss Fowler Square, and Mike's going to be talking to some of us in the future. And then we had a Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board meeting. It was a 5-county effort to understand and help update this organization, which we're meeting again tomorrow to do that. Wednesday, June 13th, had a AGFTC, that's Adirondack Glen Falls Transportation Council meeting. On June 14th, Thursday, we had a Pathway Corridor meeting. And so most of that discussion focused on the $1 Million Mile and what some landowners want to do and what some landowners don't want to do. I don't think we're going to get a consensus there. What can we do that would improve that situation? I think most of the public wants us to do something to improve it. So we're going to try and work in that direction, but it's actually a Pathway Corridor study and looking at economic development and its impacts, for the most part on traffic, and is traffic having a hindrance on the development, economic development in that corridor? We're talking about the Route 9 corridor from 149 down to Sweet Road. And then we had the Cary Road bid opening. So that's going to be made public very soon. We did have a low bidder, but is that low bidder, who wasn't too far from the next lowest bidder, the best bidder for that job? That's being evaluated by the engineers. And then we have the town board meeting today. So that's my report to the board and community. Anything else for the good of the order? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Catherine Matherden, seconded by Jennifer Switzer. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, people. We're now.
Public Affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian-American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pennell's restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pennell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pennell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.